Hello chess friends and welcome to Jozarov chess channel and welcome to a spectacular tournament that started yesterday. Welcome to the Freestyle Chess G.O.A.T challenge in 2024. So the beauty of this chess event that it's actually one of the craziest Fischer random chess events that I think will follow this year. 8 top GMs are battling it out in this spectacular, really wild tournament in which we'll see the mixed up position on the first rank, the beautiful Chess 960, the beautiful Fischer random chess. And many great players are here. Magnus is playing, Ding is playing, Fabiano Caruana is playing here, Nodirbek, Abdusattorov, Alireza Firouzja, Levan Aron and Gukesh, Vincent Kamer, really the best players are battling it out. So in my opinion, it will be a crazy tournament for us to follow. And the concept of this event is a little bit different. First, we'll see 7 rounds of rapid chess. The rapid sections are formed in 25 plus 10 seconds increment games. Then afterwards, the winner of the rapid section will actually meet the worst player. So the first player will play against the 8th player then in the knockout stage. But the knockout stage is then a classical time format event in which we'll see really the best of the best, the most aggressive games, I think, of Fischer random chess, in my opinion. As I said, really a beautiful tournament for us to follow. So today the rapid sections were over. We know the winner of the rapid sections so far. I'm not going to reveal it immediately, and we're starting now with an amazing game. This is sort of a game that I was waiting for. We have here Nodirbek Abdusattorov against Magnus Carlsen, which is really the beautiful game of generations. Nodirbek, of course, one of the most talented players of the generation, but of course he's facing now the shark Magnus Carlsen, really one of the greatest players of all time. So let's see now what happened in the beautiful Fischer random game here with the white pieces. In this particular setup, Nodirbek opened with the move f4. Probably he was satisfied because he's already supporting his pawn with the rook, and the bishop is out. He wants to play something like g3. He wants, of course, to get both of these bishops very active, and he's basically already playing against the queen on a8. We have here g6 by Magnus. Nodirbek immediately attacks the queen, of course indirectly, but he has a really tricky idea here in mind, because after f5, Nodirbek goes for this idea. He wants to play now a5 and then afterwards a6, getting use, of course, of this long diagonal here of the light square bishop. We have knight to f6 by Magnus. We have a5, bishop to d5. Magnus wants to get rid of this powerful bishop immediately, but of course Nodirbek is not allowing that. Plays now knight to f3, keeps the bishops on the board. We have b5 by Magnus, and after a takes b6 en passant, here Magnus already didn't react correctly. He played here a strange idea, c takes b6. He wasn't probably satisfied with the outcome after a takes b6 that the queens could be off the board, but I think in Fischer random chess, when you play with the black pieces, you should simplify as much as you can. Here Magnus, I think, should have simply played a takes b6, then after something like knight to c3, maybe the queens would be off the board, and you keep the bishop here. You compete against this bishop. The engine likes here also black's position. I think this is a perfect equal position now for both sides. But after move c takes b6, this is the problem about Magnus. He's of course never satisfied with the draw. He wants to create an imbalanced position. He wants to keep the queens on the board, but we have to say it, after c takes b6, there is now a problem about this pawn on a7. The queen is always stuck to the defense of the pawn on a7, and that's now the main motif of this game here. Nodirbek uses these weaknesses and plays now immediately knight to c3 with the preparation to play knight to b4 and then put more pressure against this pawn. It's of course also the threat against this bishop, so very unpleasant already position for Magnus Carlsen. We have bishop to c6, queen to a2, with the idea, of course, to double up here to create a battery on the a file. We have queen to b7. Now comes this idea, a6 by Magnus. Okay, you have solved maybe one problem, but now a new problem. Again, you see the structure is very easy to attack. Now there is even a b6 weakness. Not only the a6 is now weak, also the b6 is weak. So here Nodirbek uses now this moment and plays now knight to a4, and there's almost no good defense anymore against White's attack. What should you do? Even if you play something like b5, Magnus continued with bishop to a4, but let's see, even if you play b5, then the knight is coming on this beautiful square, hits the queen. We maybe can trade off now. The queen's off the board, you castle, and then we get rid of this pawn unpleasant position here for black. Really wild stuff that Magnus is already in huge positional problems. So that's why Magnus got rid of this annoying knight on a4, but now Nodirbek continues the game with a powerful bishop here on h1. We have queen to a4 with ideas, of course, in the later stage to play knight to e5 and then liberate the long diagonal also for the light square bishop. b5 by Magnus. Now comes the check. Magnus escapes, and now bishop to d4. We have knight to e4, and now bishop to h8, rook to h8, d3 by Nodirbek, kick away the knight, and now finally the beautiful bishop is coming into the game. That was now the whole plan by Nodirbek. The rook is finally connected to the bishop. From this point on, I think the game becomes a one-way ticket in white's favor. So we have queen to c7. Nodirbek is now happy to trade off the queens, because still there is this main weakness that we have talked about in the beginning. Still Magnus did not solve all of the positional problems about this pawn on a6. We have king to d2. Good move by Nodirbek, because you don't need to secure here the king in a castling or something. You don't have to be worried about your king. The king is perfectly fine in the center. This position is not going to explode or something. So now Nodirbek wants to continue simply the pressure here against this pawn on a6 by again doubling up the rooks on the a file. We have e6, we have c3 fixing the knight. Now Nodirbek uses this moment, is trying to get this knight on b4, putting more pressure against this pawn. We have rook to a7, rook to a5, and now Magnus played knight to c6. Again, very tough to play, because even if you play here d5 to maybe lock finally the light square bishop, then after rook to a1 you can maybe try rook to c7, but again knight to b4 is going to happen with trade, and after a couple more moves here rook to a7 can be played again in this position. I think white is much better, has an extra pawn, has the bishop against the knight, so I think this is again very solid position for white. I'm not saying this is completely winning or something, but unpleasant again here to play for black. So that's why for rook to a7 Magnus tried to kick away the rook here, tries finally to play somehow a5, but Nodirbek is not allowing. The takes simply attacks now also this pawn. Magnus goes closer with the king. Nodirbek plays now rook to a1, and here white is much better. There's no way that they're going to defend anymore this pawn on a6. Here rook from h to a8. We have knight to a6, knight to g4, h3, knight to f2. Here Nodirbek doesn't want to lose any pawns on this side of the board. Plays h4, knight to h1, and now after rook to h1 and a couple of trades of pieces, still white is continuing, of course, the game with the next for pawn. Here h5 by Nodirbek, trying, of course, to open up the h file somehow. Magnus could have, of course, played something like rook to a2, but after h6 d6 h6 g6 the king is coming closer again. The only open file, the only useful open file is the h file. That's of course occupied by Nodirbek, so again much better position here for white. So Magnus took g takes h5, rook to h5. Now he attacked. Nodirbek gets closer and Magnus gets his rook back. Protects of course the pawn on h7, but still this is now an isolated pawn, very tough to defend now for Magnus. We have e4, rook to g7, rook to h3. Nodirbek doesn't want to lose, of course, any pawns. We have c4 by Magnus. We have d takes c4, b takes c4, and now Nodirbek uses this moment, gets this king very active in the center of the board. King to c5, king to f3, rook to d7. Magnus is hoping for some chances, and after e takes f5, e takes f5, now rook to h5. Good move, which of course annoys here black. Now both of these pawns are weaknesses. Here a much better position here for white. The engine is almost saying here it's completely winning here for Nodirbek. So we have rook to d3. Magnus is trying his last idea to somehow maybe get this pawn, and here for king to g2, rook to d2. Now Nodirbek, believe me or not, makes his first inaccuracy, mistake or blunder, call it whatever you like, but now Nodirbek messed up almost the whole game. He played now king to h3, allowed here Magnus Carlsen to pick up the pawn on b2. A better choice was to play king to f3, because after something like, I don't know, rook to b2, you still are protecting your pawn, and the king is much closer to the action. It's much closer to the center of the board. Or you don't, after rook to d3, you can maybe try this one. You can lose, of course, this one, but now it's very tough to play, because first of all, rook to f5 comes with a check. Now rook to h5, again black has to defend, and now there is a clear path for the king to e3, king to d4, and now this pawn is also folding here for black. That was the best continuation here for Nodirbek. But he played king to h3, allowed here Magnus to take. Of course, Nodirbek took also, but now the king is simply going towards the center of the board. We have rook to e5. Nodirbek is not allowing the king to come closer to the pawn on h7. We have rook to d2, rook to e4, king to d5. Again, this attack against this pawn. Magnus is, of course, also attacking now the weak pawn on c3. Nodirbek takes. We have rook to c3, and actually this is really a thematic draw. White cannot win this game if black plays now this endgame correctly. But let's see now what happened. We have now king to g4, rook to e3, king to d7. Now Magnus attacks the rook. We have rook to d4, and now a huge blunder here by Magnus. He played c3. There is a certain rule in chess: you have to play very active with your king. Now Magnus had here the opportunity to play king to c5, getting an extra tempo against the rook, and now maybe even force a trade of rooks. Now if you deliver a couple of checks, white is maybe trying to do something with his pawns, but now this rook can actually hold this position. Very tough. You can play rook to c7, we can maybe get the king closer, and slowly but surely black is also marching again. Of course, white should be better with an extra pawn, but tough to play here also for white to win the game. But here after move c3, that Nodirbek played, that Magnus Carlsen played, now comes f5. So that was now the tricky idea. We have a king to c5, comes a little bit too late because here Nodirbek has the opportunity always to deliver checks behind the king. We have rook to e4. Here Nodirbek goes simply with king to h5. Is trying, of course, to play with his two pass pawns on the king side. We have rook to e5, of course, g4. You see in this line, white is already very advanced with his pawn, so not a good continuation here by Magnus Carlsen. King to c4. Now Nodirbek goes with the best idea, rook to d1. He's waiting simply for this pawn. He's saying, I will eventually give up the rook for a pawn, but then I have two connected passers against the rook, which is obviously winning on this side of the board. c2 by Magnus. Nodirbek plays now rook to c1. What should you do? Wherever you go, king to d3, rook to king to c3 does the same. Here Magnus went with king to d3. Nodirbek, of course, activates his king. We have king to d2. Nodirbek, as I said, sacrifice simply the rook for the pawn, but has now two mobile and unstoppable pawns. Magnus is trying to go behind, tries, of course, to get the king closer. We have g6, and after king to d5. In this position, Magnus Carlsen resigned. So the problem is, of course, will simply promote. You have to give up the rook, and now the pawn is marching. Game over here for black. Great game, I think, by Nodirbek, but we saw early mistake by Magnus Carlsen in the beginning to recapture with the c pawn, allowing to get himself a very tough weakness on a7, which of course a strong player like Nodirbek Abdusattorov used. Very strange ideas here, but Nodirbek is now the winner of the rapid section. Congratulations, he had really beautiful performance so far. Look at this, after 7 games Nodirbek Abdusattorov has 5.5 points. So he played only 3 draws, has 4 wins in this amazing event so far. Vincent Kamer also very good here with 5 points. Fabi is also strong with 4.5 points. Alireza, okay, good I think also for him, result 4 points. But Magnus Carlsen only 3.5 points. And look at this, Ding Liren is on the last place. The world champion is on the last place with only half of the point out of 7 rounds. So this is not Ding's variant. Probably Ding is relying more on opening theory, but it's really an interesting tournament. I think we're sick sometimes of this deep opening lines. This is a direct battle, direct duel. Show me what you got ideas here. So great tournament so far. Nodirbek is so far the best player, and he's playing now against Ding in the quarterfinals. 11 Aronian is playing against Vincent Kamer. Fabiano Caruana is playing against Gukesh, and Alireza Firouzja against Magnus Carlsen. So tomorrow is we're already a tough tournament, so it will be a fun event for us to follow for sure. So okay, I hope that you enjoyed this game. Interesting ideas in Fischer Random Chess. If you want to see more Fischer Random that we have covered here on my YouTube chess channel, check out our coverage so far. And if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and what do we say in the end? Chess is the best, of course.